Looks like things are cracking now. Hey, there's a live chat. Hey. @ sign. Hey, let me try again. Hey, like the fonts. Hey. Hi from Argentina. What's up? This is cool. This is a lot of fun, guys. Yeah, hi from Indiana. What's up? Hello from Kentucky. Owensboro, Kentucky. Oh, guys, this is really cool. I've done a few live streams before, like where I've actually, participated, done the chat thing, been a part of the crowd, but I've not like hosted one and then engaged with everybody. This is super cool. So yeah, is everybody a Beatles fan that's in here? I mean, I hope so, right? If you subscribe to a channel like FabFourArchivist, you probably know what you're getting into. But I think a lot of people probably subscribe to the channel because of the Hey Bulldog thing. So you could just be like a fan of classic rock, a fan of that era in general. You could be a fan of This Is Me, for instance, like Behind the Music. I loved Behind the Music when that was like probably in its prime, late 90s, early 2000s. Man, that thing was fantastic. And I feel like Hey Bulldog, and I actually heard this from a few friends of mine, I feel like Hey Bulldog was kind of in that same vein. I even tried to make some of the titles. Sorry, that's going to be fuzzy for a second. Try to make some of the titles kind of echo some of the stuff Behind the Music. Brandon Payne, top 10 Beatles songs. How can it not be, right? I think a lot of people came out of the woodwork. Go check out the comments. A lot of people are thinking, Hey Bulldog, it's fantastic. Why doesn't everybody know about it? And it feels like it's finally going in that direction. That's what the whole video was about, the whole my little short film on it. I really wanted to dig into the history and everything, and that was a blast to research. But I think that story has been told a lot, so it was great for new fans, great for kind of maybe not the hardcore serious fans and everything, maybe they hadn't heard that stuff before. But then you get to, okay, well, where's it been though? Where's it been the last 20 years? Especially the last 20 years. But, even going back to, and I made this point in the video, it was released on Yellow Submarine, and it came out, and they never really pushed it. I know it hit the Tomorrow Never Knows soundtrack. I know it hit Rock and Roll Music in, somebody help me out, 76, 78, somewhere around there. So yeah. Did I mention how Hey Bulldog was a single in France in 71? I did in the comments. Somebody brought that up because they specifically said, you said it wasn't a single, but then you showed a 45 of All Together Now and Hey Bulldog. And that was actually, I think that one was from France. That one might have been Italy. But yeah, it had a few select European releases. And I know this is, sorry to the person in Argentina or elsewhere around the world, but I think when we talk about the Beatles canon, when we talk about the compilation, for instance, we're talking about US and UK releases. So I think that's just the way that it is. It's kind of in the same vein of the first Beatles album is Please Please Me, right? Where we all understand that. But what about the Tony Sheridan stuff? Some people would consider that the first album, the first releases. Anyway, let's see. Let's talk to the chat a little bit longer, see what's going on here. I do have a few points that I want to make, though, specifically related to Hey Bulldog, related to the Tom Petty video, if anybody had a chance to watch that, and I guess related to FabFourArchivist, the channel in general. Cool, thank you, new sub, that's awesome. Let's see, Jeff said, I've been bringing Hey Bulldog into jam sessions for the last 2 years, along with charts, and it's a breath of fresh air. Jeff, why is that? Why is it a breath of fresh air? Because it's a Beatles song that a lot of people are like, hey, this isn't Hey Jude, it's not Let It Be, it's not I Want to Hold Your Hand. So they get excited about the Beatles side, or is it the sound? I mean, it's a great rocker, man. It's just, it's gritty. I think even if you're in a jam band and you're not leading off with that piano lick, like if you were just a rocking on guitar, or if you wanted to do a more, a combo style, rock it on sax or whatever, that lick, it's just a lot of fun. Name Starkey. At this time, watching somebody play Rock Band Beatles. I don't have that. I didn't buy it at the time. What was it, 2009 when that came out, right? I wish I would have. It's kind of on my list, but I think at this point you've got to buy a legacy gaming system and everything. I did play it a couple of times, but the drums, the guitars, the way that they reproduced all that stuff, it was just super fun. Yeah, because somebody played the same old tunes. I totally get that. I totally get that. I went to a piano bar one time in Louisville, and I was enjoying it and everything, and dueling piano bar, and the guy plays Piano Man, and I'm thinking, I dig Piano Man. Who doesn't like Piano Man? But if you're playing in a dueling piano bar, how many times a week are you playing Piano Man? So the guy comes out for a smoke break, and I'm out on the patio having a beer, and I talk to the guy, and I'm like, dude, level with me. Like, I really appreciate your musicianship. You're fun. You're great on stage. But how are you not sick of that song? And he just looked at me, kind of deadpan, and he was like, I am. And then he walked back in. And then he jumped back on stage, and he was really vivacious and everything. But it was kind of cool to have just that one moment of direct, yeah, I'm sick of that song. So I totally get what you're saying. Have you ever seen a YouTuber, All You Need Is Love? No, tell me about it. That sounds cool. Millie says, what's the next song you're going to make a video on? Okay, so let me dig in. Let me talk about some of this stuff on the channel. I think that was probably a decent time, so I'm going to hang off on the chat for a second. By the way, if you're just now jumping in, thanks a lot. We're discussing the FabFourArchivist channel, this channel that you're watching right now. The Beatles in general. We're talking about the Hey Bulldog video that was released a couple weeks ago. The Tom Petty video that came out last week that I did. Talking about the Beatles fan community in general a little bit. It's a great community, obviously very active, and it's got 50 plus years. It's had 50 plus years to build. So there's a lot going on within that. So we'll get to some of this stuff. So first, let's talk about YouTube and this channel in general. The Hey Bulldog video. Man, it took off like a rocket. It took hours and hours. I'll just say that. It took hours to piece it together. I'd never done anything like that before. I do little fun projects for the family and just like cool edits to share with my buddies on Facebook or, pass around iMessage or whatever. But I'd never stumbled upon a project like this. I'm a huge Beatles fan, huge. Became a Beatles fan when I was about 13, and this was the anthology era. And I'll spare you that story right now. Maybe I'll actually do a video on that sometime because that would be fun, and I would love to hear other people's stories. Especially first-gen fans, but especially younger fans too, right? There's just a lot of nuance there that I think would be appreciated in a video like this. But anyway, I'll share my story a little bit more there sometime. But became a huge Beatles fan, went to Beatle Fest in the late 90s a few times, had a blast with it. It's just something that has stuck with me into adulthood. And 2008, I think it was, January 2008, I want to say, I started this channel, FabFourArchivist, here on YouTube. And like I said, I'd done, little fun videos and stuff, but I was like, let me throw some of this stuff that I've got from my archives, right? Let me throw some of this stuff up on YouTube. And January 2008, we were still kind of in the Wild West of YouTube days. I think it started in 04, 05. But as far as like copyright crackdowns and everybody watching everything that was happening and all that stuff, if you're catching my drift, that didn't really exist around that time. So I had what I considered a treasure trove of underground Beatles sounds and films and that kind of thing. Because again, I'd been a fan for a while and I'd been collecting this stuff for a while. A lot of it digital, some of it analog. And I wanted to share that. There was just this passion that I had, and I know that there are still like bootleg circles where things circulate amongst super fans, fans that have money, fans that have connections and all that stuff. I mean, there's still stuff that comes out all the time in the fan community about, hey, have you heard that, there's actually a black and white film of so-and-so tour or whatever, and then we're all like, this doesn't exist elsewhere, but these fans have it. I've never really been that kind of person. I just want to share. And that's what this channel was born out of, was that love of sharing. And I posted dozens of videos, dozens and dozens. And it was really cool to be a part of that. Really, really neat to share that with everybody. Let's see. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Nobody's going, hey, I can't hear you, or whatever. Sound good? I'm looking at the chat again. So anyway, back to FabFourArchivist starting on YouTube. I'm sharing these underground sounds that I collected, and we're talking live cuts, we're talking studio cuts, we're talking stuff that a lot of people had heard, stuff that very few people relatively would have heard, especially in that era, 2008. So anyway, long story short, I really saw YouTube as a platform for it, man. It was great. And there weren't that many of us. I think now there are a lot of great Beatles channels. Not necessarily doing what I'm doing, where you're telling the stories a little bit more, and I'll get to that again here in a second, but where people are sharing interviews, clips, photos. Man, it's a blast to see all that stuff blossom here. But I'll tell you what, I started uploading in 2008. It lasted for a while, and my videos, one by one, just started coming down. And I can go back and I can still see the copyright strikes that I was getting. And when you get a copyright strike with a video takedown, it says the person's name, it says the person's email address at emimusic.com, for instance. And this is when EMI was still a thing. Of course, it's not now. Everything's universal. But anyway, so we're talking a few years ago. And I think everything came down except for a few videos. And it was really sad to see that happen, but I totally understand. They're not my videos. I don't know the rights. I didn't license them. And here I am sharing somebody else's stuff. So from a rights holder standpoint, from a creator standpoint, I got to level with them. You know, it's not my place to share. But I do have to say, I love the anthology series. Again, remember, my fandom came from that era, right? So from those 6 discs or so, I really wish they would come out with more. And they could do it, and I think the fan exists to be able, the fan base exists to be able to come out there and support that stuff. But that's maybe a discussion for another time. Anyway, long and short of it is, those videos came down, and it took the wind out of my sails on this channel. So somebody said on the Hey Bulldog video, commented on there, hey, so your channel has been around for 9+ years, and you've got like 3 videos uploaded. Where you been? That's why I stopped. So I still have stuff in the archives, so to speak. I hope you do too. I hope you get the opportunity to at least maybe know somebody who has some of that stuff, to be able to dig a little bit deeper. It's also much more readily available now than it used to be. I'll leave it at that. So anyway, that being said, I still like the idea of sharing stuff here on YouTube. And I've been a big fan of what we call video essays. And if you guys are some YouTube fans in general, not just Beatles fans, you know, not just coming for one segment, but if you kind of keep up with YouTube culture a little bit, you probably have heard of Nerdwriter. It's a guy named Evan who makes these amazing video essays. And man, his talents are just unmatched by anybody else on YouTube. And he's a great storyteller, great script writer. He puts everything together, and he releases 1 video a week. And I have no clue how the guy does it. It's got to be just a grueling schedule. But his videos are great. There's another guy that I actually have made contact with named Phil Edwards, and he's with Vox. Vox releases videos all the time, all kinds of topics. I just watched one last night that was on how granite became like the standard countertop in kitchens across America. Doesn't sound very, very interesting, but the way that they told the story was absolutely fascinating. Phil did that video. So watch his stuff, watch Evan's stuff with Nerdwriter sometime, and you'll probably get an idea of where I want to take this channel's direction. That's where I want to go. Hey Bulldog, you get the vibe. You get where we're going with that one. The Tom Petty version, or the Tom Petty video, much shorter, not as narrative, a little bit more from the heart. I want to do some of that. I want to do some of this stuff right here, because this is a lot of fun. Again, kind of engaging with fellow Beatles fans, because I'm a huge fan, but I really don't know anybody kind of in the flesh who's kind of I mean, I don't want this to sound arrogant or anything, but not to my level of fandom. And there are certainly more serious fans than I, but I just enjoy discussing it. I enjoy digging into some of the history, some of the relationships, the people, all that. There's just such cool lore surrounding all that. So anyway, I was totally overwhelmed by the response to the last 2 videos. I didn't expect it at all, but man, I'm grateful that they both seem to have resonated with Beatles fans and Tom Petty fans in that case, both here on YouTube and just beyond. I mean, it got shared like crazy on Facebook. Guitar Player Magazine picked up the Hey Bulldog video, which was wild. It was really cool to get some accolades from that. So yeah, again, I'm a big fan of this longer form video content. And I want to take the channel in that direction. So I'm thinking about different topic ideas. So again, kind of getting back to the question that somebody said, hey, what's your next song going to be? It's not necessarily going to be a song. And I don't want that to sound disappointing. But it's not like I'm saying, okay, well, I've done Hey Bulldog, now let me move on to All Together Now, which I would not do a video on All Together Now. I love the song. but I don't think there's a beautiful story there. So there are thousands, well, not thousands, but there are hundreds of songs that we could cover, and maybe I'll get to them all at some point. All You Need Is Love, the recording of that is absolutely fascinating, especially kind of weaving in the satellite technology and all that stuff that was happening in '67. So that's a cool story to tell. I might get there at some point. But this channel is definitely more than just the story behind the song. There's so many stories to tell. The music, the people. So anyway, I want to acknowledge that. I want to respect that area of kind of the Beatle world, and not just, okay, here's a song story, here's a song story, here's an album story. That stuff is great. I'll make more of it. I hope other people make more of it too, because I really want to see what somebody else can do with, a 5-minute song story on a song, or a 15 or 20-minute video on the story of the song. Just so you know kind of where we're going with it. Ideally, and I mean this is new to me, but considering it resonated with people the way that it did, I really do want to keep on making videos for this channel. I plan on doing big videos once a month, I think, and Hey Bulldog was definitely a big one. It took hours. So I have to keep that in mind. I'm a family guy. I stay busy around here with kids and wife and life and all that stuff. So that will be kind of my tentpole content, if you will. But then, things like the Tom Petty video, something that's just more connections, Beatle connections, personal memories, stuff from my collection, maybe stuff from my library. Maybe we'll go through a book every now and then, that kind of thing. But it will all be circled around the Beatles. It's not like I'm going to say, okay, now let's do a video on Blood, Sweat, and Tears here on FabFourArchivist. But yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, or you can leave it here in the live chat right now. I will leave the comments on those, so if you want to chime in later on, you can. So yeah, let me dig back into the live chat for a second. You guys are, some good stuff going on. Yeah, great channel, man. Video essays, I like that format. Obviously, a big Beatles fan. Love and respect from England. Azam, is that how you say it? Thanks, man. That's awesome. Looks like Jesus says, could you do a video on gear that the Beatles use in studio and concerts? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's literally on the list, and there is a list. Check this out. The book Beatles Gear by Andy, I don't know how to pronounce it. I just read it. Babiuk, Babiuk. Phenomenal book. So if you're into gear, you have to, that's a must. So I mean that, if and when I make a video on Beatles gear, that'll be the Bible for it. And that guy did so much research, and it's phenomenal. Another one to check out is Recording the Beatles, and the book is, I don't know if you've got a reference point. There's my whiskey glass. It's almost as tall as this glass. It is a thick, beautiful book detailing the process of recording the Beatles. And it doesn't start off with, the Beatles walked into Abbey Road Studio 2 and met George Martin, and George Harrison said, I don't like your tie to George Martin. It starts off with a history of not only Abbey Road, EMI Studios, but like the grounds and the building. And it starts way, way back. So, I mean, it really tells such a beautiful story. So you've got to check that out. All right, so I want to dig into Hey Bulldog a little bit. This is one thing, I mean, again, the response on it was overwhelming. I don't have a better word for it. It was overwhelming. It was fantastic. But there were kind of a few things that came up, both in the comments and elsewhere online, and I just wanted to kind of straighten things out, let you know where I was coming from. I don't want to get in the habit of ignoring anybody in the comments, especially people who disagree with me or something. I will say, generally, I'm not going to engage with the haters. The overwhelming majority of feedback was positive, literally like 98% plus. And that's fine by me, because they say that 2% of the population is certifiably insane, so take that as you will. But like anything ever published, especially here on YouTube, the video had its detractors, both here on YouTube and some Facebook forums and that kind of thing. But you know what? All in all, and the feedback was just fantastic. So I'm not going to dig into where somebody tries to tear me to shreds and it becomes this weird kind of personal thing, or they didn't like the format in which it was told, or they didn't like my voice, or whatever. I don't engage with stuff like that. I have no interest in it. So like, let that be the record on that situation. I will say though, that if somebody wants to debate a fact or correct a fact and they have sources to do that, by all means go for it. And guess what? I'll probably take your information, your new information, if you're right, and drop it in an update video, or drop it in the description of the main video at least. Because with something like this, when you do a 12-minute video like Hey Bulldog, the odds of getting something wrong are actually pretty high. Now, the odds of getting an opinion wrong, see, that's kind of where we get weird. So take George's guitar solo, for instance. Whoops. Take the guitar solo in Hey Bulldog, for instance. Jeff Emmerich said it was George. Why wouldn't we believe it was George? Am I saying if there's any doubt whatsoever that I dislike George or George's playing or anything like that? Absolutely not. But it seemed like there was enough doubt between fans, and I researched this stuff. Again, one great thread to go check out is over at the Steve Hoffman forums, stevehoffman.tv. Just go Google that, Steve Hoffman and Hey Bulldog guitar solo, and check out what some people say in the arguments that they make for the solo being Paul, the solo being John, no Ringo, by the way. So those are interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, it was. I'm pretty confident saying that it was George, but I think there is some doubt there. By the way, I think the spread, and I posted this on a Facebook post somewhere, I think the spread in the comment section, I would just wet finger in the air, I would say about 70% of people agreed that it was George, maybe 20% said that it was Paul, and about 10% said it was John. So anyway, I don't mind having those conversations, whether it's in the YouTube comments, or whether it's on Facebook, or you want to email me or send me a Facebook message or whatever. Like, I'm totally fine with discussing that back and forth. This is fun. This is fun. This is a side thing, by the way. This is not my day job. I don't work for Universal. I don't work for Apple. I don't work for McCartney himself or anything like that. This is just fun stuff, and so I want to have fun with it, and I'm not going to let it get too down or something like that. But that's about all I've got to say on the Hey Bulldog video. I'm really proud of it. Again, it took some time. I did it about as good as I could do, considering I don't do this stuff a lot. But I'm going to do more, and hopefully I get better, especially if I'm looking at people, like I said earlier, like Nerd Writer and some of the stuff that's coming out of the box. So yeah, check back into the live chat. Oh no, did the live stream drop? Well, it looks like it dropped on my window. Looks like it dropped on my laptop here, but then when I went back to the phone that I'm using to record, it said, said offline. Oh, now it's back. Hey there. Hey there. Beatle Guy 828 says, do a video about the Beatles recording tomorrow, never knows. That would be a fantastic one. There's so much there. I will go back to the idea of doing the song videos, and I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you heard this. Okay, there was glitch. Glad we're back. Thanks a lot, Sam. Tomorrow never knows. The beautiful thing about Hey Bulldog is that there was a great jumping off point, and that's because there was the film crew in the studio. And so if you're producing videos or video essays or whatever, that gets super interesting to start creating content. So look for stuff like that. I mean, obviously there weren't video cameras in the studio for Tomorrow Never Knows, right? So if I did one of those, I'd have to get a lot more creative, and I think that's going to be kind of fun. Jesus, it's buffering. No. Looks like it's a little bit better on my end now. Why don't we let it hang out for a sec? All right, cool. You guys, y'all give me a shout. I mean, I can restart the stream if I need to. I'd really rather not, though. This is kind of fun having y'all here. Especially, right now, by the way, the plan is to leave this up here on this channel. So, cool, it's working now. Thanks, y'all. The plan is to leave this video up on the channel so that if people want to jump in later on and kind of see this discussion, specifically as it relates to the channel and Hey Bulldog and stuff like that, the videos, maybe the future of the channel, if somebody's interested in that kind of thing outside of a live context, they can. Thoughts on the Beatles Rock Band game? I mentioned this earlier. I played it. I loved it. I loved Guitar Hero and Rock Band in general. I play guitar. I'm not, extremely accomplished or anything, and I'm not actively gigging. But I play guitar, play piano, play trombone for a long time, so I'm fairly musical. And taking that brain and applying it to the stuff that came out of Activision, and Harmonix, was that the other one? Applying it to those games was super fun. The Beatles. When I played it
it was really cool, kind of just channeling John or channeling Ringo or whatever, right? You know, it's especially if you had played what's another song, Pour Some Sugar on Me, or if you had played Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes or whatever, you know, like in Rock Band. It's really cool, but you don't necessarily feel like you're Jack White rocking out to that. But when you played the Beatles stuff, it felt, I don't know, it just felt a little bit more real, like authentic. And I know that sounds totally nerdy to say, but that's where I was. That was my favorite part of it. It was hard to get kind of technically right on some of the expert levels and stuff, even if you do have a musical background. And it was totally fine. It was totally fine that it was a challenge. You know, I'm not a gamer, more of a musician, so blending the two was a blast. All right, so I talked about Hey Bulldog and kind of where I'm at on that. I hope you guys agree. And if you're here and if you're watching this, especially if you're not watching this live, you're probably here because I'm guessing either the channel sent you to this stream to watch after the fact, or you know, the Hey Bulldog video itself passed you on to here. And so if you want to dig into some of that, I hope you appreciated what I had to say. The Tom Petty video, I do have to say, there's really not much more for me to say on the issue, but I did want to kind of acknowledge it. My personal feelings are pretty well covered in that video. Man, I will miss Tom Petty. I will miss his stories. I'll miss his music. If you go watch the George Harrison Living in the Material World documentary, the Scorsese thing, was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Then the entire Tom Petty documentary, which was 3 or 4 hours, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I don't recall the name of it right now. It was fantastic. I watched the HBO series on Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, which I know this is kind of weird for the Beatles community to talk about some of this stuff, right? Dr. Dre. But Tom Petty showed up in that because Jimmy Iovine goes way back. So it was kind of that side of the story that was most fascinating for a classic rock fan. Iovine was in on some sessions for Lennon in the 70s. So he goes way back. I mean, he's obviously a billionaire, rock star in his own right now. But anyway, that story, Tom Petty featured in it. So there's 3 documentaries right off the top of my head. Anything about the Wilburys has been there. I wanted to say that I saw a Jeff Lynne documentary, ELO, and Petty probably came in and talked about Jeff and the Wilburys there. So, yeah, the stories that he would tell, the way that he would engage, even just the way that he approached the camera, he just seems so genuine. He seems so authentic. And I don't think that there's a lot of that in music today. And maybe that's one reason that was so hard to see him go, especially at 66, right? We expect these guys to live to their 80s or 90s or whatever, just like your grandmother, just like your parents or whatever, right? I mean, you just expect them to live until they die. So 66 is pretty young, and losing him and losing the stories that he still had to tell and the songs that he still had to write and to sing and concerts that he had to play, that's a bit of a bummer. It's a bit of a bummer. And the Beatles connection just made that so much stronger. But I think I proved that point in the video. I do want to point out another glaring Petty moment that I missed. You know, I talked about the concert for George. I talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance. I really connected with those two. Those were just really powerful stuff. I'm a live concert guy anyway. But another one would be the video for I Won't Back Down. And if you haven't seen that, I'll throw a link in the description, or maybe somebody else can right now. Or you can just go Google it, because that's what everybody does now. But Tom Petty, I Won't Back Down. George plays on the song, plays Wonderful Slide. And Ringo didn't actually play on the song, but he's in the video. So George and Ringo are both in the video with Tom Petty. So you watch that, and that's kind of like, does anybody know the year that came out? 89? Could be off there. But anyway, that's kind of, post-breakup, Lennon dying, getting killed. That's kind of peak Beatle besides anthology stuff. So I love that. 2 left from the Traveling Wilburys. I know. Who would have thought that it would have been Jeff Lynne and Bob Dylan? Jeff Lynne probably. Bob, though. Dude's a troubadour. I don't know if he's going anywhere. He might be like Paul. He might still be on the road. They might be duking it out with the Rolling Stones. So Paul and Dylan and the Rolling Stones. I mean, can you imagine those guys still touring in their 80s, their 90s? They're not far from it right now. So Anyway, point being, enjoy it while you can. Enjoy all of them while we still can. Lastly, on the Tom Petty thing, Ken Womack, he wrote the recent book on George Martin that I have not read yet. It's part 1 and part 2. I'm waiting for part 2 to come out, and then I'm going to try to knock them out both at the same time. But I hear the book is phenomenal. I'm a huge George Martin fan. That's another video. But Ken Womack wrote a really, really good tribute to Petty and that Beatles connection that I just scratched the surface of on my video. And that article is called Everything Fab4: Free Falling with Tom Petty. So like I said, I'll put a link in the description, but it's on Huffington Post if you want to go check that out. Dig back into the comments real quick. I think I missed some stuff earlier. Parlor Jones. I got the chance to see Wings or Pink Floyd on my last day of vacation in England in 1974. I chose Wings in a small movie theater for $5. So cool. Red Rose Speedway Tour. Are you serious? I think that's probably the right choice. I mean, Pink Floyd, love them, but given the situation, given the circumstances and everything, in a small movie theater for $5. It's great. See, I love these stories, man. Jesus said earlier, do you think that EMI or Universal Music Group will ever let the copyright restrictions go because it's very annoying not listening to the Beatles? No. Nope. I've done a lot of information gathering for this channel because this goes back to what I said earlier about Universal and EMI and copyright specifically as it relates to FabFourArchivist and the first videos that I posted. I want to make sure that any direction that I take this channel on from now on is within bounds, within the law, within my rights, within the Beatles' rights, so forth and so on. And so that means studying fair use, that means studying copyright to a certain degree. I'm not a lawyer, but there are a lot of great free resources online. And at the heart of that is what copyright means to the big record labels. And Universal bought out EMI. EMI no longer exists, I believe. I believe it's gone, or it got absorbed or something. It might be kind of like a sub-label, but I'm pretty sure it's gone. Anyway, nevertheless, Universal owning the catalog, owning the rights to the recordings, not the publishing. Different story. I'm not going to split that hair right now, though. It's not in their best interest to have the Beatles on YouTube right now. Now, they will upload things like the Hey Bulldog video, select videos on their own, even full length, because I think it still builds the legacy. It helps people get excited about the Beatles still. And I think it probably does propel new fans to go check out more. So when they're ready to listen to the entire LP of A Hard Day's Night instead of just the title track, well, then they actually will go stream it or hopefully buy it. Hopefully buy the new remasters that came out not too long ago, right? I say not too long ago, 2009, so 8 years. So they're getting a little bit, I don't want to say long in the tooth. That's kind of interesting to think that's been that long. But I digress. I don't think that they will ease up. I don't think that we're going to see stuff like that happen here, especially with it being the Beatles. I think you'll see younger artists start to share more and more of their catalog here, because a lot of younger people, and this channel, and of course Beatle fans in general, we skew a little bit older. I'm 35, but looking at the stats for this channel, most people honestly are in their late 40s to throughout their 60s. And that's probably about 50 to 60%, no, 60 to 70%. And then the balance is younger people. Good number of teenagers, though. I mean, that's cool that they would be into the Beatles, and I hope that exists for the Beatles catalog as a whole. I'm sure it does. But again, I think you'll see younger musicians start to share more of their stuff here on YouTube because that's where that audience is. Right now, the Beatles, love it or not, they're a legacy act, they're a catalog act. And even though they're on all the streaming services, I just don't see them going hog wild here on YouTube. Kind of wish they would, but right now, let's enjoy the stuff that is up. Kind of an addendum to what I said earlier, they really did get crazy hardcore on cracking down a bunch of stuff, like I said, the bootlegs and some of the recordings. Now I'm wanting to say that they're a little bit less penalizing on that. I don't know if they have intentionally done that, or if it has to do with YouTube's Content ID system. If you're not familiar with that, you can go Google it. That is essentially the fingerprinting technology that YouTube uses to detect, did somebody just upload, Sgt. Pepper Reprise? Well, this is the Beatles. It's not John 589, the YouTube user. So that's the way that all that stuff works. Looked into it a little bit. You guys are talking about ages and stuff. 15, yeah, right on. See, I love that. I was just a little bit younger when I first got into the Beatles, and it just changed my life. So be careful with your fandom. Got started at 12, yeah, right on. While I say I'm 60 years old right here, yeah. So you still would have been a young fan when all that stuff was going down. So I'm curious about people from that generation. When you're a little bit older and you're old enough to say, I remember watching them on Sullivan because I was a senior in high school and it was just, well, those people are getting a little bit older now. I'm curious about the younger people, if they became fans while the group was still around, while the group was still a group. It seems like, especially going back to the Hey Bulldog comment section, right? A ton of people mentioned that they became fans because of the rock and roll music collection, which I thought was fantastic. 76, so 6 years post breakup. Think about the people who would have been born in 1960. By the time 76 rolled around, well, they were 10 when the Beatles broke up. They may have missed a lot of that, but come 76, 16, and it probably didn't seem like that much of a legacy act to listen to songs like Hey Bulldog just because they're so timeless. Beatle Guy said Giles used the hi-fi recordings of the Beatles for the Rock Band game. Yeah, the Multitrack masters. And so if you listen to some of this stuff, I hate the word bootleg, but I mean, that's what it is, right? That's what we consider it. Underground recordings, Dutch imports. There's a podcast that I listen to that refers to bootlegs as Dutch imports. If you listen to some of that stuff, a lot of the older generation, like it's actually, what you're doing, take 11, and that's what it is. It just came off the tape like that. But some of the newer bootlegs that are coming out are very often related to those OGG files, OGG files, that people stripped essentially from the Rock Band game. They were able to take the disc, the video game disc, and say, okay, here's Hey Bulldog, for instance, and they can go in and break out all the channels. So essentially dropping out the guitar or dropping out the drums. So you end up with all these new mixes where if somebody wants to hear just the lead guitar from Hey Bulldog, they can by blending all the stuff together. And sometimes it has to do with like frequency notching. And I know I'm getting a little technical here. I don't do stuff like that, but I've just looked into it. But that's all that's available. All of that's an option for like the serious bootlegger. So if you want to go find those Rock Band mixes, right? They came from the fact that Giles used the multi-track masters. Because when you're playing Rock Band, if you stop playing the lead guitar part in the song for it to kind of maintain its effect of you being the lead guitarist, it has to drop that lead guitar part. That's the way that stuff works. You do remember him on Sullivan, While I Sam? Yeah, that's awesome. A Love for Them started with Yellow Submarine. Yeah, the song or the movie or the soundtrack, or at this point the song track, because I think a lot of new fans came on board when that song track came out because it was remixed, it was beautifully well done, and it wasn't the Yellow Submarine LP. I didn't even talk about this in the video because it felt like a digression. But Hey Bulldog's on that as well sounds absolutely fantastic. And instead of just getting 4 new songs like you would on the Yellow Submarine LP, if you're not interested in the rehashes or if you're not interested in George Martin's score, the song track was a full-blown album. A little bit of a glitch there. All right, I'm going to actually move on to my last point, and then we might chat a little bit more. So a lot of people have asked, what's the next project going to be? If you've made it this far in either the live stream or the main video, hopefully you haven't expected me to disclose this. I'm actually not going to say exactly what I'm working on. It's pretty interesting. It is something that I have had to do a lot of research on because there's a lot of conflicting facts, conflicting reports. I've reached out to some experts on it, some people who've written some articles on this. It's certainly within the Beatles realm. It is adjacent to the Beatles. It's not about the Beatles. It's not about a specific song, but it's about a situation, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it. So it should be fun. I've got the script done now, or narration, whatever you want to call it. And now it's time to assemble everything. So it'll be probably about the same running time as the Hey Bulldog video. But yeah, that's the next big one. So I might do another live stream or another kind of smaller video in between now and then, just because that's going to take some time to put together. Hey Bulldog, it took hours. Between sourcing the photos, sourcing the videos, doing the research, then you do cool things like the graphic for the audio waveform on the solo that I did. Took a little bit of time because I had not done it before. So I was like, how can I make this happen without the $500 piece of software that some of the big guys are using? How can I do this? So I had to learn a lot of that stuff. But I guess as this learning curve diminishes over time, things will get a little bit easier. Check back in the chat. Stephen G says, what's the best concert you've ever attended? Me? Man. I've seen Paul 3 times. I've seen Ringo twice. Ringo was a lot of fun. The first time I saw McCartney was in Houston, 2005. It was a good show. It was actually by myself. It was just a coincidence that I ended up in town on a work trip around that same time. Anyway, I don't want to bore you with the story behind it. It was cool, but I think for me, the concert experience is all about the entire thing. It's not just who's on stage and what songs you're hearing, what does the mix sound like. It's who you're with, what were the circumstances, all that fun stuff. So 2009, and I've actually got a little clip on this channel. 2009, went and saw Paul McCartney live in Atlanta with my mom and my wife, and it was fantastic. It was, it rained, and it was fun, like good rain, not like Woodstock rain, but like a good hard rain. The crowd was into it. Nobody cared because we were all just having the time of our lives. But it was fantastic. Again, 2009, so like some of the Beatlemania stuff was kind of peaking again because of 2009 being a big deal between the remasters and Rock Band. There were a lot of young fans there. I really remember looking around and seeing like a lot of people with their teenage kids or grade school kids, and I'm sure it's still like that nowadays, but it seemed like there were an extra number, probably because they were interested in it because of all the buzz that was happening. Best concert, well, how about this? I don't want to say best concert I've seen because that very well may be it. The most fun I've ever had at a concert was Robert Randolph and the Family Band. It was a very, very small venue called the Dame in Lexington, Kentucky, 2003, 2004. I wish I had a recording of it. Actually, I'm probably glad that I don't, because in my head, I don't know how a real recording could sound any better than it does in my head. But man, that guy was fantastic. He is a steel guitar player, African-American dude. Fronts this, man, I don't even know what to call them. They're funk, jazz, rock, R&B, all together, rolled into one. Dude is an amazing musician. So I think he's still pretty active right now. I don't think he's got any big hits on the charts or anything like that, but go check out his music sometime. Again, Robert Randolph and the Family Band is him. Who says, could you do a little speculation or fan cast video on a potential Beatles biopic? What would that look like? Because we've got George Harrison's Living in the Material World, which was excellent. Scorsese did it, so that says something. And then we've got the anthology. Biopic. That's more along the lines of like a not documentary, like more of a drama kind of thing, right? Is that what you're thinking? I don't know. On a potential Beatles biopic, I'll have to think about that one. It would have to be done exceptionally well. I don't think you'd ever be able to cast known actors as the leads. So whether it was about the 4 Beatles or if they just did a John biopic or whatever, I don't think they'd be able to do known actors. Stephen Dorff, if you've seen the movie Backbeat, Stephen Dorff played. He played John. He played Stu, and Ian. If anybody knows Ian, I don't know off the top of my head. Played Stu. I don't think Ian played John. Stephen Dorff played Stu. Sorry to get all crazy there. But yeah, that was 94. Backbeat was 94. And then the guy who played John actually reprised his role, and that fan video is on here on YouTube somewhere. And he goes through, and it's almost like a simulation of what if John left the Beatles. really, really early in the game. So the Beatles went on, and Paul kind of became the de facto leader, but then John ends up being kind of the Pete Best style character, where he's just doing his own thing and becomes kind of a normal person, and the Beatles go on. Excuse me. I'm 65. I actually got in trouble at school in 1964 for wearing my hair down over my forehead. Imagine that. Things have changed. Things have changed. Walleye says, have you seen the speculative movie Two of Us? Nicely done and still sad. I have. Is that, if somebody can track that down and throw that in the chat room, that would be great, because that is pretty good. A good check out. It's fun. But again, I'll go back to the idea of a biopic. I just don't know that it can come anywhere close to reality. You know? I just don't know. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I had no clue that I had been doing this for almost an hour. This flies. Walleye says, Two of Us is on YouTube. Yeah. So if somebody's got the link, drop that in there, and I'll pop that in the description too. This is a lot of fun. I'll try to do more of these from time to time. Thank you guys for jumping in. If you were watching this after the fact, what I tried to do tonight, I tried to like schedule this live stream so that it would, just click in, and I don't guess the YouTube app works the way that I want it to. It just didn't pan out like that. And then it was in the wrong orientation, so I had to start over. So I think we lost some viewers there at the beginning. Sorry about that if that was you. But if you're watching this after the fact, I will try to schedule it. So if you're subscribed to the channel, you get a notification that says, hey, FabFourArchivist is live, and then you can jump in here. Hope that worked out for you guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot. Thank you so much again for watching Hey Bulldog video. It was so much fun to put together. I'll try to put together more. I don't know about the frequency. Like I said, right now it's going to have to be about one a month. And I want to figure out what I can do to really interact with everybody who is commenting a little bit better, besides just like responding to their comments. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research and digging around. If you guys know of anybody specifically here on YouTube, it doesn't have to be in the music world or the Beatles world in particular, but if you know other people who are really good about kind of jumping in and talking to the people who are watching the videos, let me know. That'd be great. All right, gonna wrap this one up, guys. Thanks a lot. We will see y'all next time.